food got here literally like a minute after we were supposed to start the call. So.
Oh shit, it's all good, man.
It only took.
Wait, Zach. So you haven't eaten?
No, fat guy hasn't eaten. I know it's gonna be a rough go.
Oh god, you gonna make it, dude? You gonna make it?
I don't know. There will be some hanger comments. Oh, look at him! Oh!
Got the panic hat on, bro.
I would have never guessed that was a widespread panic hat. Never would guess that.
It's the name of my boat, actually. It has nothing to do with the band.
Oh crap! Is that Nick?
While everybody's freaking out, catching Marlin.
Yeah.
What do you think about the studio? We just dropped like $500,000 on the renovations and this Lego carpet.
Yeah, that's nice. That's real nice.
Yeah, it looks good, dude. Oh yeah.
Stock,
Like
you guys have that
Like the
option.
carpeted pillar in the background. Yeah.
You would like
Yeah, that's my favorite.
Yeah.
Put on like one of those Velcro suits and just kind of jump and hug it.
Hell yeah, you could.
Right back there is where I got a wicked awesome Lego thing that I built that everybody likes to talk about. I really want to show you my kitchen, but now I gotta go back in and change that. But let's get back to Zach looking like he's in LA. Is that really your room with the window shut?
Yeah, it really is. Like I could throw something at that window, but I'm not gonna.
It looks like you're about to drop some Barry White and start getting groovy, dude.
Wait, you can't hear that? Is that not coming through on your end?
Yeah,
Definitely got a porn light and sound setup.
yeah. What are you doing on the weekends, man?
And Sean looks like he's on the receiving end of that. He's like got the best headphones ever, the vibrating fucking seat.
Yeah.
I've literally thought about like leaving all this stuff set up so like when the cleaning lady comes in, she just starts like questioning her life choices, career choices, like what is happening in this room. I think I know what's happening.
Take you and the microphone out, and it looks like some fucking seance shit, man. I don't know. The candles are way too close to the curtains.
No. You're gonna love this, actually.
Hold my beer.
Battery powered Edison bulbs.
Oh shit! Look at you, dude.
And so for little solar cast, whatever you want to call this thing, like I got my little Edison bulbs. You know, it's a little nod.
Yeah.
Well, your lighting looks great. Mine doesn't. I guess send me the package you got, and then we'll rejoin when I can look good.
Okay.
You guys?
Copy that.
Or is
Yeah,
this
that
just a
should be
noise
there.
thing? Is this just a noise thing?
Yeah. I got a litter box behind me.
Oh, see, Sean knows how to podcast. He's like,
That's right, dude.
you can have cat shit in the background.
That's right.
Yeah. Yeah.
My favorite part is like when the cat makes its special appearance every time we get on a video call.
yeah.
Like at some point you're gonna see that cat walk across the bathtub.
Yeah. I can't be in a room without the fucking cat following me in here. God.
Hey, man, that's a good sign as far as ownership, you know,
I guess so, yeah.
or parentship, whatever you want to call it.
Spoiled asses. Yeah.
Sean, what the hell, man? You look like you haven't changed a bit. How's it going?
It's alright, man. Yeah. Fucking hanging in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, nothing's really stressful after going over the big water, holding guns in your hand in the desert.
Yeah. That is true. That is actually true.
Spiders the size of your face.
That when shit goes down, I'm just like, bah, it's not so bad. Yeah.
A fucking order didn't show up.
Yeah.
And we got procurement upset.
Okay. Dude, the funniest shit. We had this big fucking malfunction with all these panel board breakers, and everybody was losing their shit except for me and Bill Ashman. We were just like, bah, whatever, man.
So what was
And
up with
that
panel
usually
board?
comes from the military guys like, do you see dead bodies in the fucking was it Roger Behrman's like, I don't get worried till I'm dragging bodies. I was like, oh my god, man. He was so small. I was like, I don't think Roger ever drug anybody.
No. Dude.
But I didn't want to like count and
Yeah.
you know, thank
Only
you for
bodies the
Roger,
only bodies he's
appreciate it.
tracking are the ones that are missing the legs. Yeah. 'Cause
Welcome to Suns Out, where The beach is that way, and where we believe that the solar industry can provide a better future for everyone. On today's episode, we're going to unpack a career path that has led to being both a unlimited electrician and a construction manager with a lot of responsibility. Our guest today is Nick Staryeu. He is a close friend of both Sean Chastain and myself. We've been friends for a long time, and Nick was my boss at the very first solar company I ever worked at. So we've got a lot of history there. We have a lot of fun with this episode. It was a lot of fun to record, and he's got a lot of stories to share. So stick around. I think you'll enjoy this one. Today's episode is brought to you by PV Safe. PV Safe is ran by the knowledgeable Max Isaacs. Max is an expert when it comes to safety, quality, commissioning, anything that you need to know about successfully running a large solar company. Max is your guy, so go check him out. We appreciate the support. All right, let's get into this episode. Nick, what's been going on your way, man?
Well, if you're asking about work, man, everything's fine.
Sure.
No, this is odd because you now work for like the parents of the gig that we got going on. I don't know how candid we're getting here, but I just thought it'd be funny to mention that in some weird way you're sort of my boss.
Yeah, so let's I want to do.
Let's talk about that, Zach.
I want to do like. I want to do.
I was gonna wait to explore that.
All right, so I am very happy to introduce our guest today. Way back at the start of my career, I had this boss that was a guy that was a like-minded person, right? And so we kind of, I definitely gravitated towards him. He was super influential in the start of my career. And he suggested stuff like go get your naps up, which worked out great. And then he made a move from the company that we were working at together to a EPC and dragged me along with him, which, was one of the best things that could have possibly happened for me in my career, my family, my entire life. Like, I'm very happy and excited to have Nick Staryeu with us today because he's been very influential. So Nick, thank you for joining us today, man.
Thank you, Zach, for the $900 I got at Cypress. And John Donahue, I didn't drag him at all. He came willingly. He knocked on my door, so he still owes you for those videos. But
that's right.
No, I appreciate that, Zach. Although I didn't know you were talking about me the first half.
Sure. And I don't even think I said your name. We'd like to welcome to the show Nick Staryeu. Thanks for joining us, man.
Okay, hope you didn't take that the wrong way. I was kind of joking, but yeah. And you left out the part where you almost let me fall off the roof. I grabbed for the railing, but I didn't actually see you guys do anything other than look.
Just stare at you and Sean, I told you about this on the last episode. This is the story that I wanted to get into and I never did. So Nick, tell it from your perspective so I can tell it from mine.
Well, I just remember, I don't know if I'm mixing two stories, but I remember Daniel getting mad at me because I kind of dropped one of the rails or something, or so something didn't happen right. And I thought he was upset because he thought I was fooling around or something.
Right.
But maybe that was another story because, we fooled around so much on metal roofs.
Yeah.
But no, I don't know. I think we were near the end. We had just set up the railings.
Yep.
And I don't know where we were safety wise, clearly not roped off for some reason. And I don't know if it was the granules or if it was a metal roof, but
no, it was definitely a shingled roof.
Okay. Yeah. And we were already near the bottom. So
yeah.
I think all I thought was just to reach back and grab the rail. Thank God the rails were there. And then I would have just been thanking God the bushes were there. But no, I grabbed the rail and nothing really happened. I probably would have kept going, but you were right there and you had just witnessed something that,
I'll never forget it, man, because number one, I was the slowest guy on the roof. love you residential guys, especially you roof guys. Like,
he was the
oh
slowest
man,
guy up the roof.
up the roof, on the roof, like anything to do with roof. I was a slow guy. Because I didn't want to fall, right? And this story that Nick's talking about is literally a pivotal moment for me because, you know, meanwhile, I'm crawling across the roof trying to find something to hold on to. My boss, Nick, is like running across the roof, just like appears to not have any issue with heights or anything like that. So
again, John, this was I don't know what Zach's talking about when he says running.
Well,
side note, we had cougar paws.
Yeah, we did have cougar paws, which we'll be waiting for that sponsorship money, Cougar Paw, whenever you're ready. But
send you a left shoe.
It's a great shoe. Like definitely a game changer for those of you in solar that may have not heard of it. Search look for Cougar Paws because they really do help a lot on shingled roofs, not necessarily metal roofs. But
and do be careful how you search for that.
Oh man. So this story, like we're in literally probably the wealthiest community in Wilmington, North Carolina, and we're on maybe a 10-12 roof. It may have been even more than that, but it was definitely
the one where I fell.
The one where you caught yourself.
That's what's strange because we usually were definitely harnessed off on 10-12.
Usually, but we weren't, and I don't know why.
I wouldn't have slid that way on an 8-12. So yeah, you're right.
And going back to the part where I didn't like being on roofs, like I was sitting on the railing that we had just put up. Nick was sitting outside of the array, just outside of the array, just below me, and like I'll never forget. He looks up at me and he goes, "Oh shit!" And then like immediately just starts sliding. And like at the very last second, he reaches back, straight action movie style, and just catches the last freaking rail and just like totally stops himself. And I remember thinking like, there is no way I could have caught myself right then. And that was it. Like I was like, I'm out. You know, I'll do what I gotta do. Like, but I am not.
So I guess it is my fault you left. And sorry I didn't have harness gear on because maybe you would have been prompted to stay. But I do remember the joy of getting back to the dirt. Because before Cape Fear, I was with another solar farm installer. I guess it's on LinkedIn, whatever. It's Strata. When I started, it was Solar Tech South. So
really.
But due to some, I think, potential naming conflicts, they went in and changed it to Strata.
Never even heard of that. Solar Tech South?
I think if Marcus would have had his way, it would have been called Solar Now, because that's one of his admin most of that, or maybe he told himself that, and the admin told him definitely do not. But it was a call to action, he said. But no, yeah, I was very happy to get back to the ground. I remember the last 2 weeks as we left Cape Fear, I was thinking as a math statistics guy that my odds were getting, kind of, I don't know what they were, but I didn't like that I knew that was going to be, if something happened, it was going to be in that last 2 weeks. So yeah. I felt like I was extra careful. And of course, I still think we found ourselves going up a 40-foot ladder Monday morning at 7:30 a.m., which was always so fun. But yeah, God love the dirt.
Well, you came, so when I met you, you were at Cypress Creek, and we did QC together. So, what was that transition like for you?
Hey, Sean, I feel like we haven't heard you since the beginning.
I know, Zach's been running his mouth.
Oh, I can't help it, man. I'm just so excited about this one.
Sean, oh yeah, brighten your light. I can't see you in Zach's shadow. No, man, I was, what a story. Cause I mean, starting at Strata, the most we did was, I think, a 7 megawatt. So then I went back to Cape Fear, where we're doing kilowatts. And, I think we did a 4. I think, oh good God, not even a 4. We did a 100. We did maybe a 90 kilowatt or 120 kilowatt for somebody, and then boom, Cypress Creek. It was 111 megawatt. The IS-37, which I think that the lasting memory was not knowing about pod 35 or section 35 till about 4 weeks into the job. There was a whole 5 megawatts I never knew were there. So that was crazy. And running into you, Sean, was great. I know I had met my comic partner, and it was definitely nice to have somebody to get through that, especially that had been on real dirt for a real long time. So that was a great experience. That was the first kind of trial by fire back on a large megawatt site. Of course, it was the largest site that I had been on at the time, and it's since then been the largest site, believe it or not, until now, working for the newest outfit at Middle Creek, doing this 300 and some odd plus or minus megawatt site in Virginia. So full circle, big circle.
Yeah, that was a big jump for me too. At the time, that was the largest site east of the Mississippi, and I think we all got thrown right into it. And that was 39 inverters. Yeah.
We had, Frank Truck, God rest his soul, Dennis, who both witnessed a sectionalizer mishap. We had such stories as the Brooklyn MV term crew that came down, and they had to show the boys how to do it because we had numerous situations with the faulty may be a bad term, but it's not, because it did bad terms at the sectional cabinets and I think within the transformers. So
I remember when we energized the circuit and Alex Gregory was standing at the transformer when the doors blew off of it. He came on the radio and he was like, "Not good, not good."
That's when he knew he was definitely getting off the field.
Oh man.
Yeah. I think times we had bubbling combiner boxes that sounded like dorm rooms. And I think we had a security guard have a robbery take place while he was security guarding to find out that it was him, I think, that did it. Stuff like that. It was good times.
There's so much to unpack there. Number one, think about the people that were on that project and where they are now, just how influential they've been in, the East Coast solar market. Like what a iconic site IS-37 was.
Yeah, and then all we heard about it was the shitty IS-46 site.
Oh man!
But it was totally iconic. We had the shirts made that I still have. I still wear.
Never got one. I got there too late. Thank God I got there so late. But
don't complain, Tahoe.
Yeah.
Don't complain.
I got there right in time. You're right. My second week with that company, I got flown out to Tahoe with the rest of the company for a several-day retreat. That was just one of the most unforgettable experiences of my career by far. There's a reason why companies don't do that, and it's pretty obvious, but thank God, those guys decided to do it at least once, because that was an experience, man. Let's talk about the bubbling combiners. That's a good one. Because the fix that we ultimately came up with there is not used that often from what I've seen since.
Some sort of drain, kitchen sink drain, if you will. What was it?
Yeah,
a P-trap?
Yeah, basically. So all right, so IS-37 was in the, I guess you would call it the sand hills or the foothills of North Carolina. So there was some pretty significant undulation in the terrain there. And because of that, you might have one end of a conduit that's significantly taller than the other. And I don't remember looking inside of all these electrical cabinets, especially considering I got there at the very end. I didn't really have much of a need to, but I don't remember how they sealed up those conduits. The bottom line is there was water getting into those conduits, right? And so because of the difference in height, at least in, I want to say 2 instances, combiners literally filled up with water, energized. And so at least does somebody know the story? Did somebody really walk? Yeah, it was like Max or somebody walked up on a bubbling combiner, right? Like, take me through the rest of that.
I think it was Leaf Hammer who found it. Yeah. Yeah, but he walked up. He has a video of it. Yeah, it sounds like somebody taking a giant bong rip, but yeah. But it actually happened several times. It has happened since then. So I think every conduit out there now has a big drain that was put like kind of halfway up the stub up. Yeah.
Yep. That was a big retrofit too. I think we were all still at Cypress when that happened. And that's like, I've never seen them before, but there's this big fitting that had like this one directional drain, and so like the water could flow out but nothing could get back into it.
Yeah, part of the problem too, the inverters had these vaults underneath. You remember that? So all the feeders came in, it gave more space to route the feeders, but
oh man, I forgot about those vaults. We never saw them again.
Yeah, never saw them again, but they fill it with water, and then immediately you have all that head pressure. So any combiner box that was downhill of that thing was going to turn into a damn boiler. Yeah.
I'm going to apologize now because, Zach, I had a soundbite of Frank saying shut it down when we energized and the sectionalizer blew. In fact, that's what he said. He said, shut it down. Sectional cabinet blew. Shut it down.
I was literally like, that is such an infamous quote. I was just about to say it like when we were talking about that a minute ago. You have that somewhere?
No, I was apologizing because I believe I deleted it a while ago.
What a character that guy. Frank Trunk was like the paternal figure of any solar farm that he stepped foot on. Just old grunt, old Marine, just like didn't care if you owned the solar farm or if you were like a Tech 1, like you got the same treatment. And that treatment was entertaining to watch in the third person.
Oh, yeah. I made it my point every day. I would talk so much shit to him just to try to get a reaction out of him. It was so hard, but yeah, when you did, it was just like, totally worth it.
He seemed like the one and only guy that he could have worked a day or 2 days in solar, but might as well have been working 35 years.
Absolutely.
He walked around like he had literally been there his whole life. He's already jaded by it. It's like, Frank, your second day. Thanks, bro.
Oh man, my favorite was like when he would, when like nobody would intervene when he was talking to like an owner's rep or somebody like that. Like, that never went well.
Yeah, a couple of PR nightmares back then. Yeah. In fact, we had sensitivity training back then.
That's right. Oh, thanks, Frank. Thanks, Frank. Man. Yeah. All right, we're going to pause here for a second because I need to tell you about my friends over at JL Excavation. JL Excavation is ran by Jesus Lira, which is, he is one of the most talented equipment operators I've ever seen. He's done some of the cleanest work I've ever seen, and more importantly, he's got a team that can, provide some of the best electrical services you need. Again, cleanest trench work I've ever seen. He's got a crew that can do anything from wire management to terminations and everything in between. So just wanted to mention that. We appreciate the support, Jesus, and if you need assistance with staffing or, equipment operating, anything like that, give Jesus a call. His number is 704-707-9827. That's 704-707-9827. I promise you won't be disappointed. He is incredible. Thinking about those combiner fires still, because that's ultimately what they became, even with them filled with water. That was the first time I really got hit by some serious voltage. Me being incredibly naive. I won't say his name primarily because I can't remember it, but you remember there was that
commissioning, like checking voltage VOCs out there.
Man, I was the cleanup man. So like one of these combiners that filled with water. And I want to say this point right now, like there is a serious reason why you seal those conduits. It's not just because of pests. Like you seal it with a good type of foam or something to try to prevent these situations. Well, like what we're talking about.
To be fair, I mean, yeah. So during the storm water, you're saying. Because I mean, with that grade difference, you will inevitably have water depending on where your water table's at.
Yeah, that's a fair point. But that was like the idea behind sealing the conduits, right? Like at least to a degree was try to use some kind of poly water or something like that to at least mitigate some of these issues, right?
Yeah, but if there's any gap in that poly water, then
it's
it just
over.
becomes a fire hose,
Yeah,
it's over. Pressure,
yeah.
I wonder if that video had the poly water going. Before.
Oh man, but that God, I don't remember what array it was. It was one of the first arrays that you drove past as you got to that site. Combiner like
15, man. No, I'm kidding. I don't remember. John probably remember.
One of the combiners. Sure, whatever you say.
Yeah.
One of the combiners had totally burned down, right? Like there was nothing left. And I was delegated the task of essentially babysitting this crew that was sent out there to replace that combiner. And they were taking all day, just to get nowhere. And so, as it gets into like early evening and nothing's still been done, and my boss, I don't even remember who it was at that time, was like asking, well, what the hell's going on out there? Like I took it upon myself as an idiot to go out there and try to help. And, the box had burned down, but for whatever reason, the negative source wire bus was still intact and it had all the negative source wire still terminated. It's like, all right, well, we got to get this apart, right? So you guys can, again, idiot, green, right? They could have just cut everything off and it would have been fine. But I just wanted to like show like, hey, I'm willing to help. Let's get this thing going. So I'm like, yeah, was everything dead in the field? They're like, yeah, everything's been unplugged.
Oh wow, yeah. You said is everything dead, huh?
Mm-hmm.
The old check.
Yeah, yeah. Don't.
Hey, you.
Oh
over
my
there.
God! And I don't even know how
dead?
it happened. Yeah, right.
Okay, I think he thumbs up me.
God almighty! I grabbed that negative bus.
Hey, why don't you just take us through your JSA?
Yeah. Oh my God! It hit so hard. That was like, I guess that was 1,000 volt system, right?
Oh,
so,
yeah.
Or was it 1,500? Okay. Sure. So what? I caught like 600 or 700 VOC, negative 600 or 700. That felt like a baseball bat, real quick. I was real happy after that. So many things I did wrong there. Like, don't do that ever. God almighty.
Sometimes that's what it takes to learn, though. Just.
Well, I wish I could say,
yeah.
I wish I could say that's the last time I was hit by 1,500 volts, man.
Yeah.
It's not, unfortunately. I mean, nothing. I'm still hireable. I'm a good employee.
Your insurance premiums just went up.
Yeah, they definitely Yeah. Nick, man. Part of what we want to do here is just kind of show the different people that we have the privilege to work with. Like, take me all the way back. Like, what was it like coming up, man? I know the bits and pieces, but like, how would you tell that story of like your background? The
terrible. It was terrible.
Okay.
It was terrible, but some of it was probably self-imposed. I mean, I started out in sales. I got into solar because, like everybody did, they drove by a solar showroom. With solar panels in the windows. Kidding. There was no solar showrooms. In fact, I think it was definitely the only one on the East Coast because we had a retired German success story in what was it, marketing for Amazon. He was like a big, I think that's his backstory with Strata, but he decided to get back into solar and started Strata. So I drove by the showroom and decided to get into sales in February of 2009. I think we're over 13 years ago now. So like Frank Truck, I've been in it for 35 years. Sales was terrible. I mean, but it was good enough to keep me interested to learn about solar. And, it provided an interesting perspective, just, being kind of on that side of things. I totally quit and pretty much begged for my job back. Begged to get back to work with Strata as an installer. Marcus hated me. It was only because of his wife and Nick Mashar that I got back in. They were like, dude, this guy wants to work for you. Like, just please let him work. Mm-hmm. So he continued to kind of basically, thwart my efforts to do well in the company, but at least I had a job. The best quote was when I saw him on my first solar farm, my first 5 megawatt. I walked by him. He just happened to show up on site one day, and he goes, I know that. He goes, Nick, what are you doing here? And I was like, I'm hopefully getting paid by you. I don't know what I said. Actually, I was just so offended. I wanted to run and fight all at the same time. So like a week later, I think I was like off the site. And then like 2 weeks later, I was back on the site because, people were like, hey, man, he really wants to work. What are you doing? So, yeah, I think one of the guys that filled his head with some negative thoughts ended up being a technician for IS-37. It's the same guy that punched himself in the face after a safety class that discussed safety of doing torque wrench maneuvers. And that day, he punched himself in the face with a torque wrench and had to wear a bandage. So I didn't care about that or any of that at that point, obviously, but that's what drove me nuts, working for a guy that I didn't really like and that wasn't really trying to promote anybody for whatever reason. And it got me, it got me with the mindset of don't get mad, get better, so to speak. And I started working for my NAPSEP and all these certifications to get out of there. And of course, unfortunately, I was only able to find, not unfortunately, but wasn't necessarily the path I wanted to go back to a residential outfit. But I did, and that's, of course, where we talked about meeting each other, Zach. But yeah, it was a weird entry into solar. But once I started with the installations and realizing that I could, physically perform to make money, not just do sales or wait tables, climb on roofs and use hammers and turn wrenches sort of thing. That worked out well for me in commissioning and quality control. And then, continued, somehow got the idea to, I think Alex, in fact, Sean gave me the idea to go for the electrical license early on with Strata, believe it or not. And then, 4 years of studying behind the scenes, because of course we don't know much about electricity. Stupid old solar DC guys, plugging in, put plus and minus, positive polarity, super string, bad. Anyway, I finally learned enough to pass that test, and that got me, the superintendent gig, and then I decided to just take on much more stress with construction management. So here I am. The method.
I know, like for myself, in residential solar, like just dealing with 240-volt stuff, it's like it seems like you learn a lot more about it, and then the systems are smaller. The installs take a week, and then you have to troubleshoot issues kind of on the spot. So it was actually a great learning experience for me. So I don't know if that helped you with your electrical license and like getting the hang of solar.
It did. And, having any experience at all was crucial in trying to make connections when I was studying, because I had nothing to draw on. People that install for residential, they're like, oh yeah, when I was dealing with that Romex, that 60 degrees C term, all that shit that seems so common for some people, just, I didn't, just wasn't necessarily common nature, but it did help. The little that I had done at that point did come through. But it was definitely a kind of a struggle.
Yeah, I think
Mike Holt, thanks Mike Holt. And Jeff Rodriguez, God dang.
Jeff Rodriguez, yeah.
I took his class, I think, at least twice. So before he passed. So
yeah, man, I still have some of his last teaching material that I haven't made it through completely. I need to pick that one back up.
If you share that, he'll come back and sue your ass. So.
That's right.
He was pretty keen on that.
Oh, look, Jason Lawrence, right? Yeah, man. That's man, Sean, you touched on a good one a second ago, like the residential thing. Like Nick, it was basically practice over and over again, and the residential thing is one thing. John Donahue's drive for quality was another thing. You know, like we were a SunPower dealer, right? So we prided ourselves on like the best equipment, the best installers, the best systems. Like everything had to be perfect.
Some people might be thinking you're talking generic, but SunPower was the actual brand.
Yeah,
SunPower dealer, man.
Yeah, and a great brand at that. Really, like I don't think they have been surpassed by anybody else in quality still, or production maybe.
Top notch.
But yeah, man, that was those days in residential, man. The roof work, the attics, the crawl spaces, all that, like all the troubleshooting was.
The quality and the personal build and with the people and the sense of gratification, I think is more immediate. It's more abundant and more immediate. You know, of course, on a farm, you know, if you're lucky, you'll meet the owner and he's like yelling at you. You know, and of course, it takes you like 8 months to a year to say, oh, it really looks good. And then the quality, you know, I remember the old treasurer of North Carolina, John Morrison, came to work for Strata. And I remember his quote one time, you know, we're walking through the field and he's like, does it make power? You know, because they were talking about the, you know, when you start stringing the mods on that rack, by the time you get halfway through, the weight of the rack adjusts and you start having this kind of weird movement of the mods. You know, you had to try to do weird shit with the string line, so on and so forth. He said, does it make power? Because they were like taking mods off to make it look just perfect. And so, you know, as you guys realize, as you scale up, you know, quality kind of goes out the door. And I don't mean quality. I mean just, you know, when you look up on it, you know, it's not like perfectly square. I remember when I first got with Cypress, and you know, they're like, Nick, you know, what do you think about this? And I'm like, there's 111 megawatts. So yeah, if you want to square that up, man, good luck, bud. Does it make power? Yeah, it does.
Well, sure. You know, like we're talking about the combiner box that was boiling. It's like, if that happens on a residential system, then you're burning somebody's house down. So yeah, it makes a big difference.
Yeah,
and you're burning, you know, a proverbial bridge. You know, no one's calling your business anymore.
No.
Of course, that you could translate that with what we do. I mean, you know, you don't want accidents. It limits, you know, what you can get exposed to for work. But yeah, it's, you know, I mean, we were painting conduit to match as it went from, you know, soffit to the brick. You know.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah, 100%. Like you would come out, you'd do like your white stripe or whatever your trim was, and then you would have the brick speckled, whatever the textured spray paint for the rest of the conduit every time. You could not leave.
Badass. We were so much better than that one company called, what was it, Sean? Yes.
Yeah.
I'm kidding.
God, I never got to see a Yes solar installation. What was the company that we always knew?
I don't think many people did.
Yeah, Yes Soul did good work, man. So that's where I learned all my shit from. So there you go.
Oh, yeah. What was the company, Nick, that would come down to Wilmington and just absolutely mess up stuff? We always knew when it was this one like Solar Star or something like that.
Solar Now. No, I don't know. It was whoever owned speaker wire and you know, tech screws for bonding purposes.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, John always said it was shitty. You know, we had to start turning people down because if they wouldn't go with him, you know, you'd get people come back and say, hey, you know, these guys, my roof's leaking now. This cat, man, he's, you know,
I love it.
16 years old. We got a special thing going on, but it's a she, you know, if that makes anything better. Less weird when she hugs me. But yeah, I digress because of the cat.
Is it Power Home Solar? You know, Jason
Power
Waller.
Home. Oh,
yeah.
man, I remember the evolution of that because I was on LinkedIn. My whole LinkedIn's pretty much solar specific, which is kind of funny in upon itself. But oh man, that guy popped up, and even the friends I have in Eastern North Carolina, which 10 years ago couldn't spell solar. But they're like, so what's up with the Jason Waller, man? I'm like, oh god, because it reminds me of my sales days, and some of those just giggity. Oh man, he's good at what he does, and I remember because I was sort of friends with him. Admit to say, respect Jason, but he one of his first years in business, as he was growing, I remember he announced like a big announcement on, he was a big hype train, big PR guy, and he was like, I'd like to announce Uncle Cracker for our first big get together concert thing, and I was like, hell yeah, that's awesome. But he did a thing. I hope he does good work, but of course you're only as good as your shittiest install crew.
Yeah, that's true. God, they are massive though.
People ask me about, should I do solar, and I just cringe because I just think about the flashing of the roof. I'm like, just make sure you guys know how to flash. Just flash. That's what flash means. But I think people have gotten better, and anytime you can put it on a ground mount, that's definitely the way to go.
Yeah, I did standing seam on my house, and I still rather do a ground mount. For those of you that are just watching because you're interested in solar, maybe getting solar, like if you have to do a roof before you do solar, do standing seam. That's about the best that you can do for solar, and just best in general as far as roofs are concerned.
Yeah, no penetrations, like no leaks. Yeah,
yep,
good deal.
Yep, but I still rather do a ground mount. I really like. I want to do a pole barn.
What's that? Pole barn. Yeah. Did you? So you have solar up on the roof?
No, all of my solar panels are still sitting in my shed. Unfortunately, like
he's missing his S-5 exclamation point.
Hey, good for those guys, man. Like, think about the how that company came to be. Those guys crushed it, like out of nowhere.
It's too bad you didn't get those clamps before they folded shop, though.
Wait, what?
No, they're around. I just
okay.
Of course they're around. That's fine.
It's S5.
That's fine. That's how you gotta say it.
Yeah, I have to say it that way.
Well, you briefly.
Bill Ashman probably started that company by just sending the wrong text with his typical exclamation point.
Yeah. All caps, yeah.
I'm at 10-4, god damn it.
Yeah.
Is he still all caps yet, by the way?
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Is that like one of those, those phones for the old people at night, and it's just in all caps?
I can't wait for Bill to see this or hear this and call you, Nick. That's gonna be so great.
I'll see him.
Maybe he'll shoot you a text. Yeah. He's definitely gonna shoot you a text.
He'll say S5.
Well, you briefly mentioned that you were Site Super. Like, can you tell us about the progression from QC to Site Super?
Well, that's an interesting question because I feel that most people would just, there's people out there that do a task and they do it for a long time and they become really good at it. I, basically would kind of, I think quality control was what I was in the most, and then once I sort of got that license, I was like, well, I want to focus on electrical. I want to be an electrical superintendent. And when I got in there, I kind of felt lost. And you know how each company's different, each role does different things. But, I felt like my authority was stripped, and I just went to some boring gig where I'm just like making sure everything goes the way it's supposed to. Right. Whereas with quality control, it was like, I found some shit. Yeah. I love finding problems. In fact, it became a bad thing and it made me realize that all I do was look for problems. It became a problem. No. But
I found one.
But and Nick, your problem is you tell people about their problems. Like I would go to people's houses and they'd be like, "What do you think about my kitchen?" I was like, "Man, the trim, man, the miter saw met up there, really could, you know." But yeah, going to be an electrical super, I felt like it was incredibly boring. And my first gig with that was a site that it was Pine Gate's first transmission site called Bowman, and we had a company. Are we not just throw names out there? Just like, well, they're not around anymore, so I can perhaps disparage a little bit.
Yeah, go for
we
it.
had a reach out there, and it was a reach to get them to do the work, and we ended up having real problems with that situation. And it was a site that had a lot of water issues. The proverbial we went against some of the farmers, recommendations, and probably were told some things that weren't true as far as the way the water built up during certain parts of the year. But it made for a very exciting job, aside from me feeling like I was just someone that shepherded the sheep along the process. The excitement was in the challenges, and so I guess I started to realize that being a superintendent could be as good, but like I said, I guess I sort of missed just the problem solving and the problem finding of quality. So there was an adjustment, but once I realized that essentially you still want to look for problems and correct them, so I still was quality, and I started to then appreciate my background in quality as it would apply to be an electrical superintendent. So yeah, I did just kind of make sure stuff went along, but I felt that I could kind of put an extra touch on things and make sure they got done kind of in a better way. And so that was a struggle for me, because I was still that stickler guy, as a quality control. And people were like, kind of bucking some of the things I'd say, like, we're just trying to get shit done, Nick, you're slowing us down. So I had to strike that balance. And then ultimately, my biggest challenge was just starting to negotiate with people. Again, quality control, I could just deal with my boss. I'd feed him all the problems I found. You pat me on the back, I'd go back out in the field, find more problems. Now I got to like convey these problems to people in a way that they're, happy to fix them. So that's what I used to just love to shovel on Tyler.
Me too, man. Yeah.
I remember that being a great part of my job. I was like, man, when the shit gets weird, I just say, hey, you're going to have to talk to my boss.
That's right.
I think one of the biggest things about quality control for me is I feel like you see the whole process of the farm being built. So nobody knows the progress of the farm better than quality control. So I think it's a good experience, especially as a site super. Like, coming from that background, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I showed up as the site super and Zach will chuckle, because I went from Bowman, and then I floated around with Pine Gate as the guy that could help, sort of with T-Mike, during commissioning process. And then ultimately I ended up on, I supervised a 5 megawatt in cash. And then I went to Trent River to be a superintendent on a site that had the company's only other electrical superintendent. So we navigated that, interestingly enough, me and Kevin Evans, but we're both probably better for it. And I forgot what I was initially going to say about going to Trent River. Oh, when I first got there, just pulling on the QC, I got there and I'm supposed to just be the electrical superintendent, making sure everything's going fine. But of course, Kevin's like, it's fine. So, I go out in the field and there's like, oh God, Zach, what was the number? Was it like 80,000 panels that didn't have a tight bolt?
Oh man,
it was something.
Like hundreds of acres.
They've all been tightened now.
Most of them have.
But at the time they were not. And so, we had a big thing about, hey, you can't count a module up if it's not, going to stay
secured, up. Right.
So that was kind of a big deal. But
that was a super windy area too. So like not securing those super lightweight modules was going to be a major problem, and became a problem at very least before they got ahead of it finally.
Yeah, and we'd be doing anybody disservice by not mentioning that kind of capped the end of a terrible era, brought on by none other than the first wave of tariffs, because one shitty company wasn't getting their lion's share and able to build their 50 kilowatt pipeline for the year. And so we ended up with, what was it? The glass on glass, no lie, glass on glass, no frame, no metal, just glue, glass, glue, glass, glue, glass. And then we put them on the in some farms, the worst racking system ever built is the RBI gear system. But nonetheless, putting those all glass mods on anything with the clips that required the rubber insert, was just a nightmare, because they were inherently stiff. So sometimes you catch people trying to pry them open to make it work.
Oh yeah.
And Jesus, just a nightmare working with those glass mods.
Yeah.
So
yeah. It certainly sharpened the DC troubleshooting skills, though. Finding a ground fault went from like a day-long process to a 15-minute process when it came to like, oh, this is a broken module. It had to be a broken module. Oh, it just rained and we followed it out and now we can't see the fault. Oh, okay, that's definitely a broken module. Freaking A, man. All right, so you went from quality control. So let's take it a step back further. Like, Nick was working for this super high class residential company, in which like we created this culture of
solar. In case you're confused about all the names we just dropped, that was definitely Cape Fear Solar he's talking about.
Yeah, and what a phenomenal company. Cape Fear Solar Systems is out of Wilmington, North Carolina. If you're in the southeast, like I don't recommend any other residential solar companies, commercial solar companies in that area, period. Because there really isn't any need to go anywhere else. They across the board from their sales, from their estimating, all of that, like they pride themselves on just doing the best work, most ethical work possible, straight out the gate every time. Doesn't matter who you are. But we're talking about Nick, right?
And if they're busy, call yes.
That's right.
That's right. That's in Central North Carolina. So yeah.
Yeah. So Nick is focused on a quality product. He ends up finding this job with this big EPC working in quality control. Then he goes into he switches from that to electrical superintendent. That's where we're at now. So Nick, you are no longer an electrical superintendent. Walk us through present day. What are you doing now? What do those roles entail? Like, what does a day or a week working with Nick look like?
Well, I won't tell you about that now because can't. It's super secret. Let's just say because you guys delayed the project, things aren't fast and furious. But let's take it back when I was, in the middle of it with shipping delays of last year, trying to get this major site across the board with Pine Gate as they merged and became Blue Ridge Power. They had literally every heads of state, every person that you've ever heard of from HBC, old historic HBC as I call them now, were there. And at one point we had over 450 people on a 77 megawatt site.
Wow.
So not some, normally a site that would draw that much people, but the attention was heavy because it needed to get done. And that was intense. That was one of those sites that was broken up. You had to drive several minutes, several miles to get to one side. And that was one of two sites I was over. So instantly, as they put me as a construction manager, they put me over two sites, both of which had their own set of issues. So, and then we had, because it was what they called the blue team, we had these kind of like just the shit no one wanted is what probably the best I would describe it, because PGR started out with these color codes. The orange team did this, or the gray team did this, and then they got more business, so they started two different color teams, and then they got business outside of the kind of the comfort zone, and they started feeding that to the blue team. So the blue team consisted of these people far out. So long story longer, we just had this circular door, revolving door of supers that we couldn't retain because they were kind of they felt marginalized working out in Michigan, and then the big changes with Pine Gate and the merger, they just were sort of forgotten about. So they left. And so I was a CM, I was a super, I was all of it. And I felt that I was constantly spinning in circles. So that was my trial by fire. Hey, you're a CM. And that, I think, peaked at, say, November, December. And if I didn't have some of the people I had, if we didn't have everybody from HBC there, and if we hadn't merged with HBC, that site just wouldn't have done what it did. It was one of those miracles, and I made sure to say to people that it was a non-repeatable miracle, meaning the chances that ever happened again were slim. At least with me and my health being intact. So I hoped to avoid scenarios like that. And as you now know, I left Pine Gate, the ever growing and colossal Pine Gate that's now Blue Ridge. It's actually two companies, as you guys may know. But so for the here and now, again, I got hired to be on a 300 megawatt, and that got delayed 2 months and then brought back in a month, hopefully. So I'm dealing with stuff like traffic management plans and
the TMP, baby.
Just getting a contractor to do it. I'll go out there in my brand new UTV I unloaded last week and make sure the little survey flags are there per your little map. And I got a really good set of guys that will have working under me on that site. So, I feel that the trial by fire mayhem that I was involved with at Pine Gate was kind of like what you guys would think of as when we worked at Cypress, in whatever landmark thing you guys were doing, quality control, So I experienced and saw a lot, in that 1 year as a CM over 2 sites. And I'm also glad to be away from it and have some time to breathe. Absolutely. And kind of focus, on not work. And not, be thinking about work 24/7, which can happen if you start to get into what some of us get into. So now the goal is to, I've kind of reached more than I think I've ever thought I'd get to. So now it's just about managing, a healthy lifestyle and making sure that I can continue to manage large sites with, stress levels at a minimum.
You have any plan for how you're going to try to manage that on the next one?
You mean manage myself or manage the site?
Manage the work-life balance, especially.
Well, yeah. In fact, we were successful in getting Dana, my significant other, a remote job, I might add, with Pine Gate. So she works for the siting origination team, which is cool because I never knew anything about that other than it was sales essentially. And they basically reach out, market, find and develop land that will eventually either go to Pine Gate or when they go to Tahoe and dissolve, it'll go to all of us and our companies. You know how that works. So she's a remote worker. We will be upgrading from the Moneymaker camper that I'd invested in 3 years ago to a much larger, fifth wheel. And I would say I feel like I'm in paradise in some way because, as we all know, working on the road means away from your family, ... But in this case, I found a really sweet site, brand new spots that he's just expanded on, stone, grass, landscaping ties, like literally no one will have camped in that spot before I back in my 2018 fifth wheel. And then my girlfriend and her cats and dog will be able to visit anytime she wants during the week. So
that's perfect.
It's going to be quite balanced.
That's great.
Maybe so balanced that she wants to unbalance it again and come home more, but she'll have that option. We'll be, maintaining my home in Morehead City and working 3.5 hours away in Virginia. And I think if I didn't mention that site's 20 minutes from the campsite. So perfect. It's also, as you guys know, nice. Sometimes we have to stay in hotels and campers and whatnot that aren't necessarily around the corner. And if they are, they're not very desirable situations.
Yep.
So
did you ever come to the campground I stayed in South Carolina?
One of them.
Yeah, not the one where we were neighbors, obviously. Oh God, there was this one. I can't even remember the name of the town. It was like Batesburg, Leesville, Batesburg, something like that. It was just east of there, and holy crap!
There's not a lot of neon lights in Batesburg.
Oh man, oh that just even that just one, yeah, that brought back a lot of memories. Remember Pillion, South Carolina? Did you ever have to work there?
Well, I don't know if you guys have ever done time or been in a long line, but there's a value in going to a special place in your mind and/or just forgetting about bad places that you've been to. So I do real good at just sketching that shit right on out.
Oh sure, like half of my memory is gone at this point. Just throwing that out there.
I'm gonna stick with it voluntarily done.
We've touched on some major points though, and we are all still in the utility scale solar side of things for a reason. And with that said, like there is a balance that you have to kind of figure out, right? So one of the negatives is you have to travel more than likely. Our friend Sean here has taken a role that allows him to work from home a good bit. I've taken a role similarly, but we still have to go to site, and that can complicate things a little bit. But like that type of sacrifice is 100% worth it because the work that I do in the industry that I do with the people that I work with is just so worth it. I love it. I love it. Like I feel very fortunate to be one of the, I think, few people that actually loves their job and their career and really does, for the most part, look forward to going to work. And so with the name of this whole series, Nick, I have to propose the question. We've talked about, the finding balance, work-life balance and all that, but let's get super basic on this. Why solar? Why did you join solar? Why are you still here, man? What is that all about for you?
Well, I went to UNC. I wanted to brag about that because we beat Duke this year, and I went and saw that game.
No way!
So I got to see Mike Krzyzewski leave the court for the last time. Got video, kept that video. So like for me, I didn't really know what the F I was doing in college. I mean, at the time I knew what I was doing, but I didn't know. I knew it wasn't the right thing. I knew what I was doing. I was partying, but I didn't know what I was doing in the grand scheme of things, other than, not trying hard and not applying myself. So I left college. I'm not getting sappy here. My father passed away in 2004. It was exactly the year I finished school. So I skidded across the finish line, no lie, with a D-, which, as we all know, there's a saying about it, and I can't remember, but it ain't an F. And a D- allowed me to pass and achieve my degree requirements, as they say. Some would argue that I still owe some bills, but I shook hands with Dean Smith, so who won, right? And Roy Williams put his arm around me, and again I saw Mike Krzyzewski leave the court for the last time. But getting back to my original point, it was just that I found something that allowed me to apply myself in a way that I was kind of excited about. I was a numbers guy. I somehow went to school for applied mathematics. It was called it. I was there for school for so long that they changed the name of my major. It was mathematical decision sciences. So besides poker and fantasy football, I never really applied it. So when I discovered solar, I was like, this is sciencey, because that's a word. And, I was like, it's a challenge. And again, I got to look for problems. So I found my groove in commissioning and stuff like that. And I love being outside, right? Yep. I mean, I love being outside, for all those wonderful reasons. And I just kept me coming back. I mean, like I said, I almost quit. I mean, I did quit with sales. And I was probably never going to go back, but I heard the word megawatt, And I was like, what? You guys are doing what? They were like, yeah, building like a megawatt. And I was like, whoa, how many kilowatts is that? Oh yeah, science, 1,000. And so, I was like, well, shit, that seems like something's happening there. So I felt that I needed to kind of get back into that. And again, full disclosure, I have scoliosis, and that's why I was mentioning using my body to make money. I was like, I'll never be able to use my body to make money, because I have a curved back. It's weird, I have weird pains. And here I was like with harnesses carrying modules up on roofs with suction cups. So thank God I got the hell out of that and was able to get back to using my head. Too much of it probably, but that's what it was. It was just it provided such a challenge. It was so dynamic. I mean, people talk about the solar coaster. It's very much that. It's up and down. Even with sales, it was like we had some incentive. We're like, sweet, we can sell with a 7-year ROI. And then the next day it was, shit, that rebate's gone. 11-year ROI. Hey, Frank, yeah, you don't want solar. You will not be sticking it to the man this year. So, yeah, it was, and yeah, it like you said too, I didn't realize this until later that there was sort of like a family, and that you kind of weave in and out, and kind of run back into people. So I thought that was super amazing, and it's people I like to hang out with. Again, people that are outdoorsy, smart, like to get the job done. Yeah, just it checked boxes.
Yep.
I mean, I haven't had too many moments where I kind of, where I'm at in the world. I think I've probably had 4 or 5, but usually I figure something out and tackle a new task, and solar's given me that too. I mean, with my job changes and kind of climbing that ladder.
Yep.
So
Yeah,
that's
Zach and I
where the fuck are we going now?
Yeah, Zach and I were talking earlier about construction workers. Like, when you're younger, you view construction workers, you're like, you dumb son of a bitch, But yeah, but you meet some of the smartest people you've ever met in your entire life on a solar farm. Yeah.
I love it. Neurodivergent.
They're still flat earthers and people that hit their face, a hand that slips off a torque wrench. But other than that, just kidding, Jason Guthrie. Just kidding.
That's the thing, though, is like you can totally find your group within solar. So a couple of things there. Number one, let's say you give solar a shot and you don't like whatever you're doing. That's okay, man. Like, look at the path that Nick has been on. It's been a successful path the entire time. But he's found different fits for himself across the industry. And mind you, like, he's just been on the construction side of things. Like, let's be real. Like, we Nick and I have both stayed in construction the entire time. That is one small part of what the solar industry is, and that's what we want you to understand. Is number one, like, it's a small industry in the grand scheme of things. It's a very family feel, but with that, there's plenty of room to move around within this industry, and we hope that you take the time to kind of just see what kind of opportunities are really out there for you, man. There's so many different ways to go with this.
Yeah, and Zach, I want to add one thing. So this is kind of important. I'll give a shout out to my buddy Jacob Nardi and Wade Fitzgerald, but we all were at Strata. I knew I liked Jacob because I think he hadn't, oh shit, now I can't remember the name. It wasn't Exploited. It's Mastodon. He had a Mastodon sticker on his car, and I was like, totally like that guy. Then of course, he grew a mullet. We fell in love. But anyway, like, we all worked there. We were all disgruntled. I remember it's kind of a twofold thing. I remember being faced by Nick Mashar. He's like, "What do you want to do?" He's like, "You want to get in comms? You want to get in QC, or you want to do O&M?" Jacob, just to sum it up, went into comms. Now he, worked and almost, had stock in Also Energy, and he's since moved to a battery company, Next Gen, I believe now.
Oh, really?
Getting into that realm. Sorry, Also, good luck. And then Wade, took the O&M route, and he holds numerous unlimited electrical licenses, and I would say you wouldn't even say what states he has them in. You would just say which ones he doesn't. and some of the more harder ones. He'll be working for he's working for a company as a director. He is basically doing a lot of resolar. So they're all doing real good there. And I just thought it was interesting that I got kind of given that choice. And I remember thinking about it real hard. And I remember just kind of picking quality. And for years, I always like looked at what Jacob doing was looking what Wade was doing. And I was like, I could have went that way. Should I have went that way? But to be fair, without saying anything, we all make within no lie like 5,000 of each other, which by the way is over 6 figures more than we all made when we worked for Strata.
Yeah, sure.
So, all's well that ends well. We all still communicate. I go snowboarding with those guys every year. And I think no matter what you do, you just kind of go with what you think you'll be the most good at. And of course, you can always change. I mean, even up until I think, say 2 years ago, I was heavily considering, stuff in the O&M realm. But yeah, solar is a good thing. It's one thing that is around now that you can say that if you stick with it, it'll pay dividends. It gets harder and harder as it gets more and more popular because everybody's figuring that out. And the last you are the line, the further back you are, right? So, but I'll end a little bit with this. There was a guy from Strata, and I won't say it from where, but there's a certain place in North Carolina that has a particular accent that I just love, and I know Zach knows what I'm talking about. Man, I won't even emulate that. But this guy was someone that I had seen at Strata, and because we did a lot of work in particular areas of North Carolina, and I saw him again on a site, I don't know, 3.5 years ago. He looked up at me, and no lie, he was in a ditch digging, and he said, he's like, man, I'm trying not to do any kind of voice here. He said, man, you keep you keep doing things, and I here I am still in this damn ditch. And I was thinking, I thought about that a lot because at Strata, we were self-perform, and as you guys may or may not know what self-perform, you're more attached to these people, and they feel open to ask you questions. Hey, how do you get there? How'd you get there? What do you do? How can I work for you, Nick? And this guy's just like, man, I'm still in this fucking ditch. And I thought long and hard about it, as I did every time somebody spoke. And, the biggest thing was just obviously, again, as you guys know, going home after work and putting in that time. Yeah. To get my electrical license, I didn't get that at work. I mean, that was 100% done after work. And also keep in mind, this guy probably had kids, and he had a family, and you could argue that with me just having a girlfriend, somehow I was able to make it happen more. But it's what you want, I mean, anybody can make it happen. You can either sit at home and drink beer and stare at your boat that you don't have or that you have, or you could sit at home and drink less beer and study and become a better person. Drink no beer, right? That's a thing. So yeah. Cheers. Fucking cheers.
Yep. All right. Well, I think that's a good place to call it a night, fellas.
Cut. I like how I smiled the last part there.
Hey, we appreciate you being with us, Nick. We appreciate you being with us. Thank you so much, and we look forward to doing this again next week.
Yeah, thanks, everyone. Good to see you, brother.
All right, surprise. Love you guys. See you later.
All right.